Now, there are a few different ways that you can apply positive self-talk in sports. Now, when I'm working with an athlete, we identify the specific areas that self-talk can help improve, and then we target self-talk exercises to those areas. For you, I'm going to outline a few of the main ways that you can use self-talk in sports, and then you can choose for yourself which activities are best for you. Hey there, I'm Eli Straw, mental performance coach and the founder of SuccessStartsWithin.com. Now, this is the fourth video in the series on self-talk in sports. And if you haven't watched the previous 3 videos, I've linked them in the description below. The first self-talk activity I want to talk about is one for confidence. Since everything starts with your thoughts, if you can begin thinking more confidently, then this is going to increase your feelings of confidence. But what does it mean to actually think more confidently? Well, think about what you would say to someone else to try and increase their confidence and boost their belief in themselves. Let's say you have a teammate who is down on themselves. What would you say to them? Those are the same kind of things that you need to be saying to yourself and thinking about going into a game. The self-talk activity that you can use to increase your confidence is a 3-step process. Step number 1 is where you want to identify the current negative self-talk that you have. So what you can do is make a list of all the unhelpful thoughts that you have that lower your confidence. Step 2 is you want to create confidence-boosting alternatives for each one of the statements. This is where you really need to ask yourself, what do I need to say in order to feel more confident? Lastly, step number 3 is you want to begin building your confidence by repeating these phrases to yourself every single day. And you want to do this at least once a day. The next self-talk activity is one to help you refocus. Now, when you've lost your focus during a game, what's really happened? Your thoughts have become fixed on something that you don't want to be focused on. Now, let's say that you just made a mistake and you can't let go of what happened, so you can't let go of that mistake. You keep getting more and more upset, more and more frustrated, and you just can't seem to move on and let it go. Why is this happening? Because you keep thinking about the mistake. Another example is if you become distracted by a fan. This fan keeps yelling and yelling and yelling, and it's really getting inside your head. The reason you lose focus is because you can't stop thinking about the fan. So to refocus, what you have to do is take back control of your thoughts. Now, this is honestly not an easy thing to do at all, which is why it's best to have a preset idea of what you want to say to yourself. This self-talk activity involves creating something known as a thought-stopping phrase. When it comes to refocusing yourself, you want to keep things simple. Your thought-stopping phrase should be something that's easy to remember and redirects your attention onto the next play. A thought-stopping phrase works by first stopping the negative thoughts, so stopping that pattern of negative thinking that's hurting your focus, and then refocusing on the present moment, and then refocusing on the next play. Here's an example of a thought-stopping phrase I like to use with the athletes that I work with. Let it go, take a breath, focus on the next play. You see how it's broken down into 3 different parts? First, we want to work on letting go of the mistake, then we want to recenter in the present moment by taking that breath, and then we want to refocus onto the next play. The next self-talk activity is one to help you when you're performing. Now, there are 2 ways that you can use self-talk to help your performance. And when I say performing, I'm talking in terms of your physical skills and your mechanics. The first way is when you're training. You can coach yourself through drills just like a coach would. For example, if you are a basketball player practicing free throws, you can coach yourself before each shot by saying elbow above head or any other cue that helps you. When it comes to games, you don't want to be so focused on the small aspects and details of your mechanics. After all, games are the time for performing and letting go. So the way that you use self-talk is going to be a little different. And what you can do is decide on certain cues that will put you in the best position to perform your best. An example is a third baseman in baseball. And so before each pitch, he thinks, glove down, watch the ball all the way in. That is a very simple cue that he uses to put himself in the best position to make a clean play. The next self-talk activity is one for motivation. Imagine that you're dragging yourself through a very grueling workout. What would you need to say to yourself to keep going? That's the kind of self-talk that you need at that moment. When practices get tough, it's easy to have your thoughts turn negative, but that's one of the quickest ways to lose your motivation. Instead, you want to make sure that the thoughts you're having are boosting your motivation, no matter what's going on around you. Another way self-talk helps with motivation is when you make a mistake or you have a bad game. One bad game after another can be devastating to your motivation, but you want to make sure that you don't allow this to happen and you don't allow your confidence to go down as well. If you do, this is likely going to turn into another bad game and then another one after that and then another one after that. What you have to do is keep your spirits high to go out there and to compete with full confidence. Now, you can use self-talk to increase your motivation in these situations by reminding yourself that, something as simple as you can do it, you've come back from setbacks before, and that you're going to be able to bounce back from this one. And then another self-talk activity is one for anxiety. One of the worst things that you can do when you're anxious is to keep focusing on the fact that you feel anxious. But one of the easiest things to do when you're anxious is to focus on your anxiety. Anxiety sucks. And you know that when you feel anxious, you do not play your best. So the natural thing to begin doing is focusing on how much you're anxious and how much you wish the feelings would go away. However, the only way to make them go away is by taking your attention off the anxiety and begin thinking in a new way that's actually going to calm you down and increase your confidence. To reduce sports performance anxiety, you want to replace it with a feeling of calmness and confidence. You cannot fight your anxiety. That's only going to cause it to stick around. To use self-talk to manage the anxiety, the process is going to look very similar to when you use self-talk for confidence. So what you want to do first is you want to identify the current anxious thoughts that you have. So what are the thoughts that lead to you feeling anxious? Next, you want to create a positive and productive alternative for each of the anxious thoughts. Lastly, step 3 is you want to make it a habit to read through the new list you've created at least once a day. Then, you want to apply the new statements during games or practices whenever you feel anxious. The reason why it's so important to reread the statements to yourself every day is that you are altering your natural thought patterns, but also you're helping yourself memorize the statements, which is going to make it easier for you to remember the statements during games. Now, those are some great ways you can get started with using self-talk as an athlete. Now, if you have any questions about self-talk or any other sports psychology topic, please leave them in the comments below. And once again, if you haven't watched any of the previous 3 videos in the series, I've linked them in the description below. And if you're an athlete looking for a more personalized approach to helping you improve your mental game, click the link that's in the description below to learn more about one-on-one mental performance coaching.